Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Education's regular meeting. Today is June 8th. Are we in compliance with open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
Can you please call the roll?
Carlin?
Here.
Eliason?
Here.
Evans?
Here.
Garner?
Here.
Herzog?
Here.
Lumberger?
Here.
Olmsted?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, great. And tonight will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Webster Stanley Elementary School students Hannah and Malin Gregory.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And you're not required to stay. So.
Us too.
You got to, Jim, you got to stay. Okay, board and administrative reports. I don't have anything to report, so we'll begin with the superintendent.
Well, the board president will have the last 2 pages of the superintendent's
I'll
report.
sneak in there,
It'll
yeah.
sneak in right there. Okay. I was just reminded by a note on that issue. Good evening and welcome to all the excitement of the last 2 weeks of the school year. First of all, some 16 students from Oshkosh North and West who were involved with the Wisconsin Youth Apprenticeship Program were recently recognized at a breakfast. These students participated this year in the program exploring different career pathways, including engineering, finance, culinary management, automotive and animal science, IT, machining, and healthcare. The businesses who benefit from these programs in a variety of ways, including the development and recruitment pipeline, developing partnerships, and reducing employee recruitment and retraining costs, among others, while students benefited while gaining valuable career exploration skills and helping them to confirm their interest in prior to their actual going into formal education in that area. A real delightful morning breakfast with a number of students, their parents, and a number of our employers, and a number of our advising teachers being involved. Perry Tipler and ALPS students, ambassadors, have spent the last school year visiting their partner, Evergreen Manor, to provide presentations and entertainment. In late May, these students were treated to a presentation by the Evergreen Manor grounds crew on planting and weeding and occupation of working on the grounds. Students were able to participate in the flower planting activity that will provide beautiful scenery for the residents of Evergreen Manor. Students have come to realize that the impact they have made in the past year on the residents and were recognized with refreshments and thank yous after each event from the Evergreen group. What a great experience for these students to become involved with our senior citizens. The bike rack at Washington Elementary School were filled on May 18th, Bike to School Day, with 149 students rode their bikes or scooters or walked to school. Students enjoyed prizes and a presentation from a couple who about their adventure when they biked across the United States, across the country. Merrill Elementary School was recently selected by the Wisconsin RTI Center as a School of Merit for their work in 2015-16 implementing PBIS. Other schools receiving the School of Merit included Emmeline Cook, Franklin, Roosevelt, Washington, Merrill Middle School, Oshkosh North, and Webster Stanley Middle Schools. Schools who received schools of distinction include Lakeside, South Park, Webster Stanley Elementary School. Congratulations to all of those schools for their hard work and dedication of achieving successful implementation of PBIS in the areas of mathematics, reading, and behavior. Oshkosh North High School's community students and Washington Elementary students participated this year in tutoring and celebrated their success with the Oshkosh Corporation by launching their newest vehicle, one that actually does grill. Project Grill, which stands for Growing Readiness in Learning and Leading, the educational partnership between the Communities Program and Oshkosh North allows students to build their skill budgeting, welding, design, assembly, and marketing. As you can see from the photos, the students were enjoying a celebration of the great partnership. Without actually using the new grill, they did kind of cheat and use an adult grill, but that little vehicle that's modeled after one of the prototype vehicles of Oshkosh Truck actually is a wonderful grill, actually with North engraved into, or with a insignia right in the grill. But outstanding work. My biggest worry was that the rubber tires would melt when it ran, and they said they had it perfectly well insulated. So, University of Wisconsin Oshkosh Head Start families recently had the opportunity to explore the Payne Arts Center and play during the Arts Play Day, a day designated for children and parents to have time to disconnect from their outside world and spend uninterrupted one-to-one time together playing and discovering wonderful art experiences. Families enjoyed exploring the grounds, the field house, which provided opportunities to do science and literacy activities and build nature items. Students received a goodie bag funded through the Arts Core Colony Foundation, and that contained art supplies that they could use to continue their play and artwork at home. 17 8th grade Perry Tippler students traveled to Bemidji, Minnesota in mid-May to experience 3 days at the Spanish immersion, where Spanish is the only language spoken. Students enjoyed Spanish culture, cuisine, dancing, singing, and music. This wonderful experience provided students with the time to enhance their Spanish-speaking ability while making new friends and memories. On May 18th, Perry Tippler students enjoyed a spring carnival. It was a wonderful, ideal, sunny day, conducive to playing basketball, volleyball, giant kerplunk, and mini golf and dunking teachers in the dunk tank. I'm sure that was very popular. Everyone enjoyed the great day. Webster Stanley students and teachers used the April and May PBIS focus on teamwork in Minute to Win It game to demonstrate the guidelines of being good teammates, observers, and participants. Jefferson Elementary School had a summer giveaway which provided students the opportunity to select between 8 and 10 books. Many of them were donated by community organizations, as well as two or three math games in an effort to keep their learning active during the summer months. Care Days 2015 was a great success due to all great volunteers. 477 OASD students were able to participate and be involved in this great experience as a participant, cheerleader, support leader, track worker, or carnival worker. What a great day, and do check out the video that's available that shares that experience. In addition, all those in charge took credit for the most fabulous weather one could ever expect on that day. And here is a listing of superintendents for the activities for the past couple of weeks, and I'm going to turn it over to Board President Allison now, who's going to tell us about the last two of the slides.
Okay, so each year Smith Elementary has the Great School Milk Debate, and they invite a panel of adults and children to come and listen to their debate on whether or not they should serve both white and chocolate milk or just white milk only. So I was honored to be a part of that panel. And they have to research for weeks. They have to write arguments for and against. There were several students that thought they were for it, and then when they researched it, they were against it, and then after further research, they would be for it. So it was a really neat experience. The final score for this panel was that chocolate milk should be served, had a score of 9, and it should not be served with a score of 11, which I think is different from last year. So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And then the other school that I went to was South Park Middle. They have a sixth grade literacy unit where the students in sixth grade, for about 2 months, they create their own board game. And it's a really neat cumulative product. They have to write their own narrative, they have to write the directions for the game, and they even have to do a lot of marketing and presentation of their game. They do a presentation to classmates, and then they also post this game on Game Board Geek on their website so that they can receive feedback from gamers out there. And it is actually a possibility that if big gaming companies would like to buy their game, that they're able to do that on that website. So it is a marketing idea as well. So students also learned how to give feedback to each other. And then there was a game consultant that came in twice during the 2 months in the beginning to help them flush out their ideas. And then at the end, when they did their presentation, the game consultant came in and gave them scores. And then I interviewed kids, and those are quotes that I received. It's fun. It really pumps you up. That's the most creative unit I have ever seen. And yeah, this little boy said, if you don't like literacy, then you should try this unit. So that's it. Okay, do we have other reports? Committee chairs from other, nothing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the only one again.
Okay. What do you got?
Oh, well. The Education Committee met on Thursday, June 2nd at 8:30 in the morning. First topic up for discussion was the academic and career planning. Julie Mosier introduced Nicole Peterson, who is our half-time FTE CTE coordinator. And CTE means what again?
Career and technical education.
Career and technical education. She's the half-time career technical education coordinator, and remember that because that's going to be important later on in my report here. Nicole talked about upcoming academic career planning that was put into effect by the Department of Public Instruction, P126, which will help to ensure students have a plan so they are college, career, and community ready when they graduate. The ACP for grades 6 through 12 will become a requirement beginning in the fall of 2017. By that time, a long-range plan will be developed with community stakeholders. The plan must be posted to the district website, and it must be reviewed on an annual basis. Students will have access to career cruising software, which the district staff is currently learning about during this upcoming school year. Career awareness will take place at the elementary level, followed by exploration during middle school and high school years, an effort to prepare students through research, learning experiences, career decision-making, applications of skills, entrepreneurship, personal finance literacy, CTE opportunities, labor market information, and employability skills. The Oshkosh Area School District will be accountable in order to manage this requirement and meet the student needs, which will require a full-time position. The district is hoping to increase Nicole Peterson's 0.5 FTE status to full-time. To be in compliance, the plan must address local, state, and regional labor needs. The goal of ACP, regardless of what class you take, is to explore your career path. Continuous change will need to take place in this future, so it involves continuous improvement. And that is hoped to be implemented in the 2016 school year for us. The second item was SAGE conversion to AGR, Achievement Gap Reduction. Student Achievement Guaranteed Education, SAGE, is being discontinued, and it was going to be replaced by the AGR. 5 schools were originally in the SAGE program. Now we have 4 that maintain their SAGE status. The district's intent to be AGR ready by the beginning of the 2016-17 school year. The schools that are going to be in it are the Washington, Roosevelt, Jefferson, Webster Elementary. What is involved with this is class size reductions and instructional coaching. One requirement of the AGR is that funding must go toward extra staffing and not things like parent nights, which we used to do with the SAGE.
So this will cause a shift in resources and will align better with the district strategies. The last item was the curriculum adoptions. And the quirk of this, of the education meeting taking place on the Thursday before the board meeting, which is tonight, is that a lot of the stuff is on the agenda. So I don't want to steal everybody's thunder, so I'm just going to briefly talk about this. Social studies has not adopted curriculum in over 10 years. So middle school students will, since middle school students will have Chromebooks next year, they're going to go with the digital and online research applications, which will research for the best access. The majority of books being purchased will be digital, but 50 hard copies will also be purchased per grade. Since the district has not made major curriculum purchases in the past 5 years, Julie will be coming to a future Facilities and Finance Committee meeting to talk about carrying over her funds to help make this purchase to update social studies curriculum. And that is it.
Thank you. Are there any other committee chairs that have reports? Okay. All right, then let's move to the consent resolution agenda. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. If a board member wants to discuss any item, it will be pulled out of the consent agenda and will be voted on separately. I have been requested to pull number 1. Anything else? All righty. The board will consider the approval of 2, sale of the Bismarck property. 3, tentative agreement with the Non-Teaching Employment Association, NTEA, for one-step and longevity movement for eligible non-teaching employee association, NTEA.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Call the roll.
Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Lumberger?
Aye.
Lumberger, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Carlin?
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Motion carries.
Okay. Resolution number 1, personal appointments, resignations, retirement, and salary schedule. Be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the appointments, resignations, retirement, and salary schedule as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
I had asked that this one be pulled. We once again have a retirement of a long-serving individual in the district, and I just wanted to recognize Steve Gajewski for his many years of service to the district and its students, and thank him for all he has contributed over these many years.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Call the roll.
Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Herzog?
Aye.
Herzog, aye. Lumberger?
Aye.
Lumberger, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Carlin?
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Motion carried.
Okay, there's no individually considered resolution, so we'll move right into workshops. Number 1, district-wide CLC report, Julie Mosier. And team.
And team, exactly. So, good evening. It's my pleasure to come back 1 year in 2 weeks to the date that we came to you talking about CLCs, our 21st Century Learning Centers, and coming up with a sustainability plan. We put that sustainability plan in place, and boy, has it worked. We're going to talk about the great things that have happened this school year with our 21st Century Learning Centers, and it's my privilege to introduce Corey Van Thiel, and Corey is our district CLC coordinator, and she's going to do further introductions because we do have a team that helps us every single day with extended learning for our students at Lighted Schoolhouse, MELT, and AMP. So, Corey.
Hello. We are missing a couple of folks, but I just wanted to point out that we do have many of them with us. And our Lighted Schoolhouse coordinators first we'll start with, and those are the elementary level coordinators for our CLCs. And that is Danielle Buss. And we're missing Megan, who is at Merrill Elementary. Danny is at Emmeline Cook. Jennifer Halicki is also not with us tonight, and she is at Roosevelt. Corrine Jengo is from Washington Elementary, and Brock Bloom is from Webster Stanley Elementary. And then we have our MELT program, which is our middle school program that stands for Middle Extended Learning Time. And we have those programs at Harry Tippler Alps, and that's Shirley Zahn, the coordinator over there, and Donna Shepard from Merrill Middle. And then we have our program AMP, Awakening My Potential at Oshkosh North, and Sarah Eliason is our coordinator over there at Oshkosh North.
And in addition, we also have Lindsay DeVries, which is elementary director, and Lindsay supports our Lighted Schoolhouse site coordinators. So Corey will give some history.
So this slide is familiar because we went over this last year as well, but the addition this year is that we added a new CLC to a middle school and an elementary school in 2015-16. So the program started back in 2003 with Webster Stanley Elementary. We added Washington Elementary, then Emmeline Cook, Oshkosh North, Merrill Elementary and Middle, and this year we started Perry Tippler and Roosevelt. 2015 school year marks something that we had never done in the district before, which was start brand new CLCs daily. So you can see total enrollment, and that would be any student that we served one day or more. DPI qualifies our regular attendees as students attending 30 days or more. And then I broke it down even a little bit further so you can see how many students attend 90 days or more. Our CLCs do run every day that school is in session. So this is the elementary level. And we have our two biggest sites at that's okay, Washington, or excuse me, at Webster Stanley Elementary and Emmeline Cook Elementary, serving over a third of the population at E-Cook, with most of those students being regular attendees at all 5 of our sites. Our secondary numbers I broke down the same way. Our focus at the secondary level is to make it a destination for those kids after school, because there are a lot of other activities competing for their attention, and most of them have younger siblings that they're responsible for, or can be spending time at home alone. So you can see our numbers there are still pretty impressive with our regular attendees. North is a drop-in program. We have it in the morning and after school, so we always see great numbers with students served, but our regular attendee data has really increased from last year, which is a great source of pride for us over at North, because last year we serviced 66 students as regular attendees, and this year we've had 90. This is just a little diagram showing our overall program growth. So in 2014-15, we had 4 elementary sites, 1 middle school site, and 1 high school site. And then in 15-16, we added 1 additional elementary site, but we still managed to service almost 150 more kids at all 5 sites. And even without adding another high school site, we are still increasing our numbers there as well. Notable are our partnerships with the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA. When we started the programs specifically at the elementary schools, we ran alongside their aftercare programs. And as we expanded the CLCs to run every school day and to run until 6 o'clock, we decided to partner with them rather than compete. And so the benefits of that partnership are myriad, but we highlighted just 3 on the slide right here. 3 of our elementary sites and 2 of our middle school sites, the students with their enrollment fees are granted a Boys and Girls Club membership for the school year automatically. We have helped to kind of take the lead with youth development training for all agency staff. So we work with the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA aftercare staff to participate in district trainings. We train our staff in PBIS, in conscious discipline, in active supervision, and we invite them to join us for those trainings as well. So it's very cohesive from agency to agency. And using them as our third-party kind of HR allows us to hire hourly district employees, whereas before that was cost prohibitive because of overtime. So this way we can use our paraprofessionals from the school day who have those relationships with our students and transition them into after-school youth development employees. These are some fun pictures of some of the activities that we do. We are focused on academics. Our goals and objectives are linked to literacy and math, as many in the district, obviously, but we do that through a lot of interesting activities. The pictures up here are unicycling from Tipler. We have our cross-country ski club, which we ran at all of our elementary and middle schools. That particular picture is from Washington Elementary. The picture in the middle is an improv workshop from Webster Stanley Elementary, where we played theater games. And then we have a picture from Parent University, where we enlisted our high school students to provide child care support for our parents while they were attending our educational workshops. And then, Sarah, did you want to talk a little bit about what we did at the high school this year?
Sure. Sarah, come on up, please.
Well, the high school, I kind of came on board the high school in January. I had been at Tipler with Shirley Zahn. And one of the first things we undertook was ACT prep, which attracted a whole new crowd of kids to AMP after school. It was quite exciting because we had about 80 kids sign up for each of the AMP courses, and this ran for about 2 weeks after school. So that was kind of one of our highlights because we really were able to introduce our activities, enrichment, and then our tutors and all that we do to a whole new group of kids. Other things that we've embarked upon this semester and intend to carry out even to a greater degree in the year ahead would be working to really connect with students and help with social and emotional skills and just a general feeling of well-being. One of the key things that we heard anecdotally and sort of saw in some surveys that we did was that across the board it's anxiety. Anxiety issues affect every single student and adult in the school, but it's one thing that unites us all is that sense of anxiety. And so we've started twice weekly yoga. We have mindfulness training, and we're doing other things as well. Some of those things are student-led, and some of them we've partnered with community members, and they're coming in to help out. We've also begun to implement a really strong connection with our counseling team at the high school. And now I found out today some really cool news. We're going to be backed up in that effort by the university. So we're going to have counselors in training at AMP every day next year, working with our students and building those relationships even more. So we also have cool activities, but the high school student, is kind of a picky creature. So what we've done in this past semester is try to throw ideas kind of against the wall and see what sticks, and I'm sure that the ones that did not stick this year will stick next year. I don't know. we had a lot of field trips, and we're always trying to encourage career and college readiness. So field trips, bringing in financial aid experts. One of the other cool things about the collaboration with the counseling team is that we are going to be collaborating on that as well, and really improving those efforts. So we have a strong connection with the food pantry that we're going to continue to grow, so that we can provide our kids who are hungry on a daily basis with food. Just a lot of social outreach, and then just a strong sense of community is really beginning to grow in the AMP rooms. I can't say enough good about our staff at North, because we have strong tutoring there. We've got quite a few dedicated math teachers who are there morning and afternoon. And our reading and writing center, which has been a real positive feature of AMP, is being upgraded for the upcoming school year as well. We have a literacy coach on board. We're going to be doing peer tutoring before, during, and after school. Hopefully. We've got a lot in the works. We've had a good foundation, but I think we're really poised for some great success. Thank you. Julie? That's really good news, by the way. I didn't get along yet.
So just following in that vein, we survey our teachers mid-year and at the end of the year, and we also survey our parents at the end of the year. And I just wanted to share with you some really positive things that we've been hearing from our parents. The two on the right are from AMP at North, which the fact that any parent at North takes time to fill out that survey is a real victory. We don't see the parents a lot at the high school, but what they had to say just really speaks volumes for what Sarah and her team are doing over there. So the one in the middle is from Emmeline Cook, Lighted Schoolhouse Program, and this is probably my favorite in all the surveys that I've read so far this year, because it really speaks to what we do every day and why we come to work. So the little teacher quote that I pulled there is from Melt, and it happens to be from Tipler, where the program is in its infancy and it's already been really positively received, not only from parents but also from staff. And then the top right is also a quote from a parent at Tipler. Shirley, did you want to share with us a little success story from your first year?
Hi, I'm Shirley Zahn. I'm the coordinator at Tipler, and I have a million things I could say, but I'll just say a few. We started the first day of school with 12 students, so our goal for me actually was to create a welcoming environment, a safe environment, where middle schoolers who can walk home and play video games would want to stay after school. And by January, we were enrolled at 52 and our program was essentially full. So I think that we did accomplish the goal of having a safe, welcoming, warm environment where kids would want to stay after school. And as I was walking across the parking lot and leaving the students tonight for the last day of school, I had a little story I thought of for one of my 6th graders. This student happens to be an autistic student, and on the very first day of school, his dad called me to the office and was very worried about the first day of school and how would his son react to being in the middle school, away from some childhood friends, on a huge playground. And I said, well, I have an idea. Is he on the playground right now? Let's go meet him. So Dad and I went out on the playground, met the student, and I said, I will be there right when the bell rings and we'll have a great day. And as I was saying goodbye to that student tonight, and I thought what growth that he had made and the friends that he had, and I just, if you don't mind, a little note he wrote me to Mrs. Zahn. Dear Mrs. Zahn, thank you for all of the support. Most people, not anymore I think, don't talk to me and ignore me, but you make me happy and awesome. So I think that it's absolutely vital to have programs at the secondary level. These kids have so much choice and so many negative influences that if we can encourage them to stay and extend their learning day, I think it's just the best we can do. Thank you.
Anything else? That's it. Okay. So, as you can see, when we talk about CLCs, and you notice that we're not talking about after school and we don't talk about aftercare, we talk about extending the learning day. And that's exactly what all of these dedicated individuals do on a daily basis, because once again, we're there every day after school until 6 o'clock, 5:30, and they're servicing children and making sure that they have a welcome environment. I just can't express how thrilled and proud we are of how this program is expanded, and that how we really appreciate the support of the board and supporting our sustainability plan. So as we come to facilities and finance and we start to look at our next school year, we have great things that are up and coming in the works. We are continuing to be providing PD, and specifically in the areas of literacy, math, so we support that extended learning day. We're bringing in national trainers that are really focused on youth development. So once again, we're bringing that extended learning day, and we're developing youth behind all those social emotional pieces and how we support them through that. And then we want to be making sure that we're supporting those 30+ community partnerships. And so we're going to be shifting some of our staff around and focusing more on community outreach coordination as we look at that, because that's a really important piece behind this. But once again, we couldn't do this without our dedicated staff. And we will be coming to you, to facilities and finance, talking about our budget, because of course nothing runs for free. And we'll be talking about our different funding sources and the things that we have found out about running extended learning day programs. Last year when we came to you with a sustainability plan, we were predicting that it would be $1,200 per elementary student and $580 per secondary student. When we crunched the numbers, it actually came out to $1,300 and $600. So when we come to facilities and finance, we'll show you exactly what those numbers look like to continue on with the great work across our district. So.
With that, Julie, I think we don't often have this occasion. We've got 4 elementary and 1 middle school principal here that we should introduce, that they're so seldom, they're so busy at night. We don't have the opportunity to introduce our principals, who are partners, of course, with this program.
Oh, yep. Actually, because they're actually part of our next workshop,
Right.
which is Sage to AGR. But we have with us this evening Susan Martin, who's the principal at Washington Elementary School, which is a CLC site. Rhonda Buchanan, which is Jefferson Elementary School, which we hope someday to have a lighted schoolhouse site there, because they would really benefit from extended learning day. We have Kristen Berger from Roosevelt Elementary School, which is a lighted schoolhouse site, and also Beth Galeazzi from Webster Elementary School. And then in the far back, she's probably one to hide, but Cindy Olson, which is principal at Merrill Middle School, which is one of our MELT or our secondary or middle school sites. And Stan's exactly right, that their partnership, having our administrators on board and knowing how valuable extending the learning day is a key to making this work. And our principals have been fabulously supportive. Every time you talk about these things, you forget all the different supports, and you forget, who haven't I thanked? But they definitely are a key piece with that. So questions for CLCs?
I just want to make a couple of comments. This is an extremely valuable program. Obviously, it serves a population who need and want the program, as your numbers indicate. And it also reminded me of a conversation I had in April of this year with Al Wenig, our district recreation director. He told me at the time of the 100-year celebration at the rec gym that particular April day, that the recreation department actually started to serve youth after school. And your comment near the end of your report, which says, a CLC is a true community program. 100 years ago, business leaders came together and decided that the city needed a program after school because the workers put in such long days. This program, in effect, is an evolution of that. And one of the changes, one of the many changes, that we should note is that when Al described that program of 1916, the locations were open until 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. at night, rather than 6 p.m. So times have changed, and that's not to worry. But this is a great program, even if you're only open till 6 o'clock. And so thank you, all of you, for all the work you do to make a difference for our students.
I would just like to add that I see all of you in your extended work with students across the district and at the different times that I'm around in school buildings, and your dedication to making sure that students are receiving the attention that they so desperately need, and the adult role model relationship that is so well beyond the academics and the social and the recreational, but having somebody to talk to is so crucial for so many of our students. And the letter that was read from our Tipler student is just a classic example of that enduring relationship that is so important for our students. And I'm so proud of this program and so proud of what we do, providing difference for students every day, both in some cases before school at high school level, but after school, and being safe and good places to be. And you simply do an outstanding job, and your leader is also an outstanding pizza seller and fundraisers.
Steve?
And if I could just jump in, I had the good fortune of working with a good many, all of our leaders at the sites skiing this winter, and it was just a real delight and a treat to meet the staff and the people involved, and of course the students. And to me, it's the best stuff in life, right? It's where an idea can just bubble up, great stuff can happen. It's all wrapped and enveloped in love and in an upward trajectory, and just nothing but good. And just a heartfelt thanks to everybody for your work.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Great report. Good news. Okay. Thank you. Next workshop is converting from SAGE to AGR.
And just like we told our Pledge of Allegiance students, we don't have any obligation to stay for more. Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and get us started. Our four middle school, or four elementary principals that were introduced just a moment ago will be on backup. But this workshop is really an informational piece because you will be presented with AGR contracts that we will be signing as a board for the four elementary schools that we're going to discuss this evening. And so thus you should have some background information about what we're signing and what we're contracting with. So currently, the Oshkosh Area School District has four elementary schools that are under the Student Achievement Guarantee and Education Program, which is SAGE. And the SAGE program has been in place since the fall of 1996. There are currently 325 schools in the state of Wisconsin that have SAGE contracts or in SAGE-like contracts. Now, if you think about that, there, I believe, is 436 school districts in the state of Wisconsin, and we're talking about 325 schools. So it's a very small group of schools that are focused on for closing achievement gaps. And these are 5-year contracts, and when we contract, we are committing that we are going to go through and commit to these strategies to close achievement gaps, and because of that, we are receiving up to $2,250 in addition per student in order to fulfill those strategies. So SAGE, though, is coming to a close. So in 2015, Wisconsin Acts 53 and 71 brings the SAGE program to the close, and it's being phased out so that in the school year 2017-18, we will be in something called AGR, which is the Achievement Gap Reduction Program. Schools, there was 96 schools that converted over to the program last year. We renewed Webster Elementary under the old SAGE, but now we feel like that we're poised to, instead of waiting for the fall of 2017, we're ready to convert over to AGR. So when you see the contracts at the next board packet, you're going to see them reflecting the AGR program. So what are the requirements of AGR? Basically, a lot of the requirements are the same, but it's becoming more focused than what SAGE was. So first of all, we have to commit that we're going to implement one or more of the 3 strategies that are listed. The 3 strategies are class size reduction, which means we'll maintain a small class size of 1 to 18, or 2 to 30 if we're going to combine classes. Data-driven instructional coaching for teachers, and or data-informed one-to-one tutoring for students at risk with difficulty with reading and math. The Oshkosh Area School District has historically, through our SAGE program and throughout the district, we have gone with reducing class sizes and with instructional coaching for our teachers. We will need to report to the DPI at the beginning and at the end of the school year with the strategies. Not a problem, we have been doing that. Set performance objectives, we have been doing that. Specify the formative and summative assessments that we're going to be using, we have been doing that. And describe the implementations and make sure that we're reporting out on that. So as you see those requirements that are up there to convert to AGR, it just really made sense that we go from SAGE to AGR. We're ready to do this. So when we're looking at state aid allocation, currently they're telling us that in the 15-17 budget, which we're under right now, the state budget, that their funding level is going to remain the same. So whether we're SAGE or whether we're under AGR, our funding level will remain the same. So we should receive approximately $2,250 per student in addition, and it will be enrollment driven. For the 15-16 school year, we received $818,000 to supplement and implement those SAGE strategies. We're predicting that we would be about at the same funding level for next school year. So the 4 elementary schools that we have are Washington, Roosevelt, Jefferson, and Webster Stanley Elementary. And so as we've been working with our schools and our staff, the 2 strategies that we are going to implement in our new contract are the class size reduction and the instructional coaching. And once again, those are things that we've already been implementing in Oshkosh, and we want to continue and support. So specifically, what does this look like in the Oshkosh Area School District and at those 4 elementary schools? When we're reducing class size, this is what we're hoping to accomplish. We're looking for more concentrated, personalized, and individualized instruction and meaningful relationships with students, which will ultimately improve achievement. And so going from, if you know, in our school district, K through 3, we're looking at a 1 to 24 ratio. By having a 1 to 18 ratio, we are looking for that more concentrated focus. When we are looking at coaching as one of our strategies, we are modeling how to teach mathematics and literacy through a workshop model, professional developments for teachers in those programs that are listed above, working side by side with teachers in a coaching capacity, coaches leading monthly meetings, and then coaching sessions with individual teachers to build capacity. So you're going to see a lot of those things that we currently have a foundation of that in the Oshkosh Area School District. But what makes this difference is that when we're looking at closing achievement gaps and we're looking at improving student learning, it's not always about doing something different, but about layering on more layers of support. So when you're cold, you layer on more. You layer on a sweater, you layer on a sweatshirt, you layer on more items to get warm. Well, when we're talking about when students are struggling, we layer on additional levels of support. So as a district, we have a foundational base. With our title schools, we have additional supplemental supports. And then when you bring AGR and SAGE in, we bring in that another additional level of support. So it's adding more, we're supplementing. So we're required to look at performance objectives. When we look at performance objectives within AGR, there are 3 things that we have to answer. We have to describe what the student should know and be able to do at the end of the school year, describe what the student will be asked to do to provide that evidence, what's the performance expectation, and describe the level of achievement that is expected or required. And as you can see in there embedded is the summative or formative assessment that we're going to use to achieve that. So for example, we have grade 1 math up here. You can see that the student will combine and partition numbers in the range of 1 to 10 without counting. Then how they're going to do that is given the AVMR, the Advantage Math Recovery Assessment and Structuring, the student will attain at least a proficiency level of 3. That code under there is the district and the state standard that it matches up to. And then our goal would be is that 85% of students will attain that level 3 within there, and that's the goal. That goal, when we set SAGE or AGR goals, it's higher than what we would expect at the district, because if we're adding additional levels of support, our bar expectation for what students are going to achieve should also be raised at the same time. So as you go into there, that was an example of a grade 1 performance objective. We set objectives in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, and we set them in math and in reading. And so in addition to that, for our school district, because we feel like literacy is really the umbrella, we have not only a reading goal, but we also have a writing goal, because we understand that writing is the reciprocal of reading. And so within there, we have, for every grade level, we have a math goal, performance objective, we have a reading, and we also have a writing. And Kim, would you click on the link? Because I can't click on the link. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Oh, well, okay, so if that did come up, you would see an example of what all there's, for example, for 1st grade, there are 3 math goals, 1 reading, and a writing, correct? Yes. Okay, and you would see that, and all of them list out exactly each of those components. So when the contracts come to you, you will see that for board approval, it will have the strategy spelled out for you. It will have the performance expectations that each of the schools and grade levels will be held accountable to. And then the last piece is that we are putting this out there, and we are applying for this because there is funding that comes with it. So based on the 2015-2016 allocations, this is the funding amounts that will come to each elementary school to offset class size, and to also implement additional levels of instructional coaching for that $818,000. And once again, that we're not tied to that number, because depending on numbers, and if it comes in at 2,200 versus 2,250, those numbers could fluctuate. But that's the projected revenue with our AGR contract. So, any questions?
I'm assuming that this is an inclusionary program, in that any special populations in the schools, such as English language learners and special education students, are included in this group for whom we're looking to close the achievement gap.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So
Thank you.
all subgroups, even though the funding allocation and the school selection may be based on socioeconomic status, all subgroups are included.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Julie.
Okay, well, and thank you, and I just want to thank our 4 principals for coming today.
Thank you.
The work that you're going to see within the contracts is their work, their staff's work, their staff's commitment to raising the bar, and so we just want to say thank you to them, and how appreciative we are to each of their staffs and our educators within those buildings that take on that higher bar for their children. So
Yeah.
we really appreciate them.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Okay, next workshop, 5-year analysis of teacher staffing. Mr. Nault.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you all?
Good.
Staffing. Just kind of going back in time to refresh your memory. I think it was February we brought you a report relative to the ISTs, those teacher support people. And I included that report in this report at the very, very end, just to refresh your memory on it. So I'm not going to get into that too much. And then we provided you with a report relative to the staffing for the last 5 years on the paraprofessionals, the administrators, the clerical, the custodial, and maintenance. And then I said I needed a little more time because there's 850-ish teachers, and it's a little bit more work to go back to 5 years. But we have provided you with some information that I will try to summarize tonight rather than any type of line-by-line type of thing, because I don't think that's really necessary. If you look at your report on page 1, the very first page, 2012, 2013, You'll notice Reed School is up a section at the 5K, kindergarten and grade 1. Reed School is really becoming a 3-track school. I think next year it will be a 3-track school for all grade levels.
Do they have room for that?
Yes.
Okay.
According to Jackie Kiffmeyer, yes.
She would know.
Yep. Yeah, she would know. The interesting thing about the report is for 12-13, 13-14, and 14-15, at the elementary level, the only information we had were the increase in sections. We went back to Roxy to see what we could find back into our records, and we could not find any reductions of sections for elementary schools. But you will notice with the 15-16 and 16-17, we have that information, and for the most part, either we're going to be up a little bit, 1, down a little bit, 1, or neutral for FTEs. But for the first 3 years, you'll see that it just shows up. Relative to the secondary schools, you'll see a number of cross-cap positions, and you'll see that a number of those positions were financed by replacing 2 paras for 1 teacher. So that's, and also there's the increase in IEP minutes. And then you probably recall, if you were on the board back then, the school psychologist situation that we had. And remember, I think we have 7 FTEs of school psychologists, 8. Thank you, Matt. But we were down to 2 at that time.
Right.
And it was a crisis situation that we addressed. So that's 12-13, unless there are any questions on 12 or 13. Moving to page number 2 for 13-14. This is when Oaklawn opened up, and you'll notice Oaklawn is up a section in grade 1, grade 3, and grade 4. And of course, Oaklawn was another school that was going from 2-track school to a 3-track school with a new building. And then Roosevelt was up a section for grade 5. Once again, if Oaklawn is attracting that many students, you would think that another building would be down, maybe a section here, a section there, but we just didn't have that data to verify that. Secondary schools for 13-14, you'll notice a number of cross-cat positions, adding IEP minutes, or we had to add FTE because of the IEP requirements of minutes, replacing 2 pairs to create a teacher. I think the other big piece there is in the report it says program coordinator. Those are program support teachers, PSTs as we call those. I think there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 program support teachers. The thing that I really want to point out to you is on the right is that all of those program support teacher positions were financed by moving resources from X position to a program support teacher position. I shouldn't say all of them, the vast majority, because we did have 1 retirement. We did eliminate Clarity Care and CISA 6 contract. But otherwise, we were basically moving resources around to meet the needs of the district. And as when we don't backfill, that means we didn't create a new FT that there was a cost to. So that was 13-14. 14-15 for the elementary. This is page 3 now, I believe. Yes, page 3. For the elementary, we were up a section in Alps. We were up another section at Oaklawn in grade 5. That made Oaklawn truly a 3-track school in that year, all grade levels. And we were up a section at Shapiro. And then for the secondary, I think there's 2 things I want to point out here, is that as the district has added Encompass programs, we've either added a counselor to each one of those programs or a school social worker to one of those programs. And you'll see that right here there's 3 school counselors that were added because of those programs. And then the other thing that I want to just point out is the technology integration coaches. That was the year that we created those positions, and Dr. Gunlock basically took a line item from the technology budget of $500,000 to finance those salaries and benefits for those positions. And I think Julie talked a little bit about that, or that was Dave that was talking about that at the 5 o'clock meeting tonight. Sorry about that. And then we get into 15-16, which we're much more familiar with, of course, because that's what we're currently in. And if you look at the elementary here, Oakwood's down a section, Roosevelt's down a couple sections, Traeger L was down a section, Reed was up a section once again, a 2-section, 3-section school. Smith went up a section, E. Cook went up a section, but ultimately we were down 1 section overall. And that's what it should look like for every year, and it will look like as we keep records going forward if we ever want to look back in the future of that sort of thing. When you staff the elementary school, here's what it kind of looks like in a nutshell. We get all the elementary principals together, basically Dr. Gunlock and myself, and the first 4 hours, it takes about 4 hours for every administrator, every principal to go through every grade level in their building, and they'll say, you know, grade 1 I'm FTE neutral, and grade 1 I'm up, and here's why I'm up, because I have this many more students, or here's why I'm down, or what's going on, all that kind of stuff. So it takes about 4 hours to go through all that. At the end of that meeting, we have whether a building's up in FTEs, whether a building's down in FTEs, whether we have some hot spots. Hot spots would be such as, let's say in K3 we have 24 as our limit, and we might be at 24, we might be at 25, we might be at 26 or even 27. We call those hot spots. And then we don't do anything with them at that meeting, we just identify them. And then we all come back again 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, and we look at the out of attendance area students, we look at our hot spots, and that's when we finalize all of our staffing so that every grade level K3 is at least 24 or below, and our ideal is to have 22, and we leave 2 open seats for anybody that's coming into that attendance area. And of course, grade 4 and 5, we're at 27s. So it takes us about 8 hours to go through the elementary staffing. The secondary staffing takes us about 12 hours to go through it. We come together, we do the FTE thing first, you know, what's your FTEs looking like, da-da-da-da-da, pretty general. But then we get into each department, and we get into each teacher. And I've got the 15, 16, I'll just show you that, because you've seen it, but I'll just point it out. I have the 15, 16 staffing, the 16, 17 staffing, and that's where you see, well, we're up 0.3, we're down 0.6, we're up 0.1, we're down 0.2, we're neutral or something like that. Secondary staffing takes us about 12 hours total to get through the whole thing. It's 3-4 hour blocks to get through the whole thing where we're like, okay, we're ready to go, we're ready to post, we're ready to do whatever. And of course, before we ever post, we got to make sure the budget's ready to go and those types of things, because you don't want to get out in front of that, if you know. So, yeah. So 15, 16, that was the elementary. Just scrolling down a little bit on 15, 16. The thing there I think I'd like to just point out is a couple of things, well, about 3 things. The math situation. You'll see that we've added some math teachers over the last 2 years. One reason is because of the response to intervention and the specific learning disability requirements relative to that, and because we're going from 2 to 3 credits in math requirements at the high school levels. Then you'll also notice that the program coordinator district-wide for ELL, and I'm just going to go to that chart at the very end of this report, because you'll see how much in the last 3 years, last 2 and projected for next year, how much our ELL numbers have increased. Over 200 students in those 3 years, but I'll just point that chart out. The other thing is with the school psychologist, we just made a decision. Mike Breen retired. He was at 0.4. He was a retiree that came back and helped us out. Well, we knew we weren't going to find a 0.4 psychologist, and we needed at least a 0.4, so we ended up having to go with a 1.0. We weren't going to bring anybody in here at a 0.4 psych. Just wouldn't happen. So that's 15, 16. Now, on page 4, right at the bottom of that, it says staffing. Overall, up 3.3 secondary, down 1.0 elementary. So our net increase for this past year was 2.3 FTEs. Even though you see all these increases and different stuff, at the end of the doggone day, with all the changes, that's where it's at. So when you look at, starting on page 5, when you look at the 2015-16 department staffing, secondary staffing, that's where I'm talking about. That right there, that chart right there, takes us about 4 hours to ultimately get to the end of it. And that's where we're up 0.1, 0.2, down 0.5, you know, all those little FTE deals. And so at the end of the day, when we get that done, it'll show that we're up 3.3 FTEs secondary, but then we're down 1.0 in elementary, so our net increase for 15-16 was 2.3 FTEs. So I'm just going to then scroll right through all those departments, because that's just, and get to page, then get to page 11. So if you could just get to page 11. And that's projected, that's our staffing for next year, 2016-17 for next year. And basically you'll see that Roosevelt's down one section, Smith is down, Washington is down. Now once again, Reed's up, they're going from a 2 to 3 track school. And then Traeger L, we went up a section at 5K. What happened there was we had some high numbers in 5K. We had 5 out-of-district students that wanted to go to Traeger L in 5K, and it helped us massage a couple other buildings, situations that were high in 5K. So we added a section there. At the end of the day, though, for all the ups and downs in the elementary, we're down one section district-wide going into next year. So that's kind of how that all works. And then secondary for next year, projected out, we're projected to, let me just point out a few things here. You'll see that we're increasing our ELL FTE staffing in North High and Elementary. And once again, I'm going to get to that ELL chart for you just to point out how those numbers have dramatically increased. We've got a couple math teachers we're employing for next year due to the increase in credits again from 2 to 3. Overall staffing is up 3.1 in secondary, minus the 1.0 that's down in elementary, so we're up at 2.1 overall FTEs going into next year. And we have about a 75 student increase at West alone. So it all seems to jive and make some sense. Okay. And then there's, of course, all the staffing notes that we went through. Once again, I said it's about 8 hours worth of work there to try to get through all that stuff. And it's amazing how the principals put together some of these positions and how creative they are thinking about how this person can work here and work there and stuff like that. It's kind of a remarkable process, really. It's kind of neat. Putting together a big puzzle is what it is. Then getting to page 18. And on page 18 is the ELL student population by school level. On page 18, letter G. And you'll see, and I'll just go to the far right, in 12-13 and 13-14, I mean, we had 392 and 395 identified ELL students. No big increase, but 14-15 we jump up to 443, an increase of about 50. 15-16 we jump up to 530, and then 16-17 we're projected at 592, which is 200 students increase over the last 5 years total, or 4 years actually. And so therefore the need for the program coordinator to help Julie a little bit, therefore the need for a couple more ELL teachers. I mean, just, yeah. And then at the end of the report, basically, once again, was the Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance information relative to the instructional support teachers and that stuff I provided you a few months ago. So that was pretty fast. I don't know. I kind of moved through that pretty quickly. A lot of information. Just tried to summarize it for you. Any questions? Any thoughts? Barb?
I just want to commend you on a tremendous amount of work here. I think this really helps me. I expect helps everyone else around the board table understand just how complex the staffing is in the district. And at this point in time, obviously, these are the numbers, but we could get an influx of families, or we could get folks moving out, and so these numbers may fluctuate. But I'm very grateful to you for the amount of time, energy, and effort you and your staff have put into this to help clarify, at least for me and I think the rest of the board, just how complex determination of staffing is and how careful we are in terms of asking for staffing to serve the students in our schools.
Yeah, we try to staff very efficiently and very mindful of where we're putting our FTEs to get the biggest bang for our buck. And that's the bottom line at the end of the day, you know. How we can stretch those staffing dollars to reach as many students as we can, as best as we can. Yep.
And I would just like to also add my compliments to Mike and the entire executive team supporting Mike in dealing with this issue, as well as his staff. Our principals do an outstanding job of coming forward with working very hard to be as precise and efficient as possible in deploying staff, and you see that reflected in the continuity of delivery. Because of our number of buildings we have that are small, especially elementary buildings, we do end up, if you were to compare our direct FTEs with number of population, we are slightly higher because we have so much traveling. We share teachers between, and you lose time every time you're moving staff around that I would refer to as windshield time, and it's not instructional time. And if we were in a district that had all their elementaries were roughly 500 students apiece, the number of FTEs that we need to have to staff the district would be considerably less. But because we have what is the luxury and the benefit and the trade-off with having small neighborhood schools, we are less efficient in staffing, but yet because our principals cooperate with one another, both elementary-wise, but with certain K-12 license areas like Phi Ed and Adaptive Phi Ed and others in music, they are very efficient, even K-12, in sharing staff and making sure that works together. And it's a tremendously important project. When you then, on top of the staffing and allocating FTEs, the next complication for Mike and the human resources, along with our principals, is then to fill each of those positions with real live human beings. This is just numbers of FTEs, and then you put that on top. And I refer to this process, and having done that process for a number of years, it's like in our case with 22 school locations, it's having 22 chess games with jumping rights in between. And that's the reality, is how complicated the process is.
And if I could just piggyback on that, Stan, for a second. Relative to filling positions, the teacher shortage is becoming more and more overt. I was actually showing Stan just recently. The elementaries, we're still getting 80, 90, 120, applicants. But for all secondary positions, it could be anywhere from 10 to 30 only. I mean, the numbers are just, it's getting more and more difficult. And what else is getting more and more difficult, it feels to me, is the competition for quality employees within a commute of our school district. The beauty of our school district, we can pull, but the other not so good thing is they can pull. And so it's just becoming much more difficult within the commute of where they can go. But all in all, I think we're doing well. We're bringing in some really good talent, and we're okay so far. So it's just more challenging. So.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
You bet.
Okay, next item, potential efficiency projects for consideration.
I've asked Dave Gunlock to take the lead on this, but our entire executive team, all of us were party to making presentations through the referendum process in the district, and we heard some continuous themes, and they're very important questions that we need to answer, that we need to explore, and we want to first of all ask your permission, and we'll formally ask it at the second board meeting this month, to take action to explore these. Every single one of our executive team made presentations across the district as part of the referendum. We heard those similar issues, and they deserve explanation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gunlock.
Thank you. These are listed as two separate workshops in your agenda, but in the spirit of efficiency, we're going to give you two for the price of one. So we're going to condense this down into one workshop. So as Stan said, when we were out presenting the numerous times for the referendum, we had a lot of fantastic questions from people in the community, and they were asking about different efficiencies. How were we? They were very proud of the fact how efficient we were, and that was for some of them a revelation that, oh, I didn't know this. This is awesome. This is great. But there's a few things that shouldn't you do some of these things anyways. And we said, we're always looking to become more and more efficient as long as it doesn't have a short or long-term negative implication. And we're always very careful about that, because sometimes you can make a change to your school district and it may save money, busing, But however, then there's other things that squirt out around the side that you then have to deal with, and then even though it may still be a cost savings, sometimes the cost savings dwindles down, and in some cases it can actually cost you more money. So we're very, very intentional about trying to see over the horizon and into the future, and see as much as we can about what is going to be the final implication of these things when they've been operationalized. So we take that very seriously. Some of the potential efficiency projects that we heard about and that we want to talk about and have you react to is, number one, continue to explore and propose reform to the existing employee early retirement incentive plans. This was probably one of the ones we heard the most, and other districts have gone down this road of restructuring those. Mike's done some fantastic research on that and has a lot of data, and the other districts do offer things. They just structure them in different ways.
Yeah, basically what we currently have is what's considered a defined benefit. A defined benefit is like the health insurance, and the health insurance continually escalates with whatever cost it escalates with. And other than last year when we had a 0%, a lot of times that's been in 7, 8, 9, or even double digits over time. So that's where that becomes cost prohibitive, very difficult to sustain that type of benefit. And so what we'll be looking at is going to a defined contribution where it's X amount that is affordable and sustainable going into the future. And as Dave said, I've looked at a number of school districts, because every school district just has a little different touch to it, a little different flavor to it, and it looks a little different. But the beauty of that is that we're going to have the opportunity to look that over and draw a little bit here, maybe a little bit here, and have our custom package for the Oshkosh School District someday in the near future, this fall probably. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of what we have to do and remember with that is we have to remain, Mike just talked in the previous presentation about being able to recruit and retain. We have to retain competitiveness. And because employees are wise, as the prospective employees are wise, and they shop around to look at what is the total package deal, not just what the salary is in the first year.
One other thing on that before we leave that topic is that as a Board of Education, one of the things that I want you to keep on your radar as you look at something more down the road is the fact that if you have nothing or you have very little, you want to be careful about forcing, and I'll use that word, forcing teachers to have to stay in the classroom beyond when they should be in the classroom. So what I'm trying to say is we need to have balance in this program where if there's the opportunity to retire and move on, or so you're not forced out, that type of balance with our educators. Does that make sense?
The other thing we talked about when we were doing the referendum presentations is you cannot look at that in isolation of our average salary and benefits. That's part of it. And one of the questions we had is, as you capture savings and efficiencies from this type of an initiative, what do you do with those resources? Because remember where our red line was. We were the lowest in CESA 6, and that is not a position we want to stay in, of course. So how do we deal with that? We have also taken steps with the administration a couple of years ago and kind of moved down this road into sort of a tiered system, so we have some experience with that as well. So we think we're poised to be able to look at this and have some good ideas. The second one was research school size, capacity, physical condition, life expectancy, enrollment projections, and instructional program needs for all pre-K-12 school facilities. Determine future facility needs and efficiencies based on the comprehensive study. Now, the one that first I think of with this, being a longtime Oshkosh resident, is you're going to hear people already saying, we did that before, right? We did that study. Yes, we did. And that was 10 years ago. And a couple of things have changed. Our community has changed a lot. Our enrollment projections have changed. And our facilities have changed. They didn't just get 10 years older. Our facility needs have also changed. As you know, we're mothballing more and more of our computer labs to reuse that classroom space because we need the space. And because we have our Learning Without Limits initiative, we can go ahead and do that while still being able to deliver on our mission. So those are just some examples of changes that have occurred in the past decade, and it's time for us to go ahead and look at that one more time, and so we have the most up-to-date information to light our way.
And Jim Fox told us at a recent Facilities and Finance Committee meeting, remember, buildings do eventually need to be replaced, that they don't last forever. And remember, we have
Ours do.
Yes, we have two buildings that were serving this community in the 19th century. And we've passed the entire 20th century and now in the 21st century. And but yet we've worked hard to maintain and preserve them and make them safe learning environments. But
At what cost?
Yeah, at what cost, and at what a long-term deterioration that we do have to face.
So this would go hand in hand with, at that last meeting, he said that he wanted to do and was looking at doing a comprehensive study on each school on what they're, so this goes,
Yes.
but this is deeper with
Yes.
rooms and stuff, and this is more structural.
Well, we'd add in enrollment projections, instructional
Right.
program changes. There's a lot of things that need to be factored into that as well. Nothing is simple with this because we are educating 10,000 children, and there's a lot of needs, so.
Dr. Gunlock, is this number two, especially, but perhaps both, is this likely an outside specialist firm who's doing the work, or
Yes.
internal? Yes.
I mean, I think
We're all going to have to contribute to
Yeah,
it,
we'll be
but
contributing
there
in-
are firms that do this, that especially on the structural engineering piece. I mean, we can do, but it's really taking a look at pretty antiquated facilities, but that we've held them together, and because of our maintenance and crews and our custodial crews.
And remember, this one is a look over the horizon one too. You know, for the next short term, our facilities are working well. We've done a lot of great work with them. Our staff have done a phenomenal job of, as Stan says, holding them together. But what about 10 years from now? What about 20 years from now? What does that mean? And can we get started on some of these things now? The third one is, in order to maintain a comprehensive secondary school program for all 6th grade through 12th grade students, search current and projected student enrollment, specialized facilities and equipment, instructional program trends to determine optimal student learning while optimizing annual and long-term operational efficiencies. This one, really wrapped in a nutshell, is how do we continue to offer a comprehensive education to our students pre-K-12? How do we continue to do that? Because remember, that's what was at risk with the last referendum. You know, with as many of our efficiencies and how low spending we are as an organization compared to our comparables, we're kind of backed into a corner. And everybody who sat in on those budget committee meetings and worked through those issues realized the only place to go would have pulled away at our comprehensive education program. And thankfully, the voters decided not to do that. And I think our statement has been, you know, you do that at your own peril as a community, because if you don't offer a comprehensive education, parents will live in a place that does. And so we do a phenomenal job of providing that education. We have a whole bunch to be proud of. You've heard a lot of it tonight. This is about how do we maintain that. But looking at it through a wider lens of other than just programs. Facilities, trends, what's happening new with programs? What are some of the changes that are coming that might impact our space? You know, we built a school just a few years ago, and we didn't put a computer lab in it. We instead put a flexible space in the media center. You know, that's just one tiny, tiny example. So.
And an example of Jim Fox and I met at the request of Aaron, West High School principal, along with department chairs in music and science, to talk about how do we come to terms with the fact that that early 1960s building is no longer able to keep up with both the amount of science, type of science, and the number of students enrolled in science, and the multiple issue in music of the fact that the band director and the department chair said, I interviewed and talked to the band director and had quotes from the band director about how happy they were when they moved into that building. There was adequate facilities because there were 150 students in band. And now we have well over 325, 330 students in band, and offer more than just band. We offer multiple bands. We offer music theory. We offer composition. We do all those kind of things in a facility. That and in the science area, the number of science teachers on carts and the whole issue of not having really touched those facilities since other than making sure that we keep the vents working and the gas coming and the water running. Nothing much more has been done with those facilities.
And that may be at Oshkosh West, but Oshkosh North faces the same challenges, and our 5 middle schools face those challenges as well. So really taking a dive into how are we looking at this systematically. It's not just about the high schools, because STEM and science learning, hands-on, being personalized, all these things that we keep talking about, we really have to take a look at our spaces and how we're organizing our learning environment in order to meet those needs. And so I think it's going to be fun to take a look at that, but it's also going to be pretty daunting, because we're going to be having to make some choices. A term that's often thrown around is mass customization. And so how are we going to customize and be good at and make decisions on? We can't be good at everything. So what are those things that we are going to say in Oshkosh we are really good at? Well, still, once again, providing that foundation, but we can't be good at everything. And I think when you look at business and you look at big companies that have been successful, it's because they've determined what their niche is, and they've been really good at that. So in our Oshkosh community, what's going to be our choice? What are we going to be really good at, excellent at?
And because we nearly have 800 students per age level, we have the opportunity to offer a wide variety and be very comprehensive, but we may not have the ability to do it at both high schools at the same time. That we may have to be sharing our students back and forth, and that sometimes in this district, in spite of the river, it seems like it's at the other end of the continent when it comes to the issues. But we have 2 very progressive high school principals who work very well together, and that's part of the issue of coming together on how can we make those things work together.
This also becomes an equity issue, which ties to our strategic plan.
Yes, it does.
I've always maintained that you cannot provide equitable instructional opportunities when you have one teacher who has a classroom of his or her own with all kinds of resources, and you have someone on a cart who has to move from room to room. To be able to set up materials in a science lab setting so that students can take current and projected trends and issues is very different when you've got a teacher who's got to change every class period as compared to one who can set things up and they're ready to go when the students come in. And they can be left set up when the students leave. So equity to me is a big issue with number 3.
But the other thing we have to keep in mind is sometimes we start to base some of the things that we're talking about, what we currently know about learning environments. But I think it's going to be our challenge as a school district and for you as a board to take that vision and project out what learning environments and learning spaces are going to look like. So also to keep that in mind is that what equity used to look like when it comes to learning environments may not be what it looks like going ahead in the future. So I think we also need to keep that in.
On that same vein, Julie, how do you think that technology is going to, kind of along what Stan was saying, is that maybe we do one thing in one building and one thing in another, or something like that, and then how could we leverage technology? We are leveraging technology now.
Yep.
But I see that that's going to be a bigger portion of our future, yeah?
Absolutely, because we already through eAcademy, we're leveraging being able to access courses and coursework throughout the state of Wisconsin with highly qualified teachers. We're able to do that across the river. So, for example, our IT Career Exploration course, which is on eAcademy, it's taught by an Oshkosh North teacher, but Oshkosh North and Oshkosh West students are all enrolled in it at the same time.
Okay.
And so, and that goes across semesters, so it's not like this semester it's Oshkosh North and this is Oshkosh West. It's whatever fits best in the student schedule, and then it's across the district. The other thing is leveraging telepresence when it comes to our language courses, because that's a little bit different flavor when it comes to instruction, because you have the communication piece. Language is communication. So making sure that we keep those things in mind. So technology is going to be key to this, but it's not everything, because when we think about some of the other skills that we want students to have, it may not be able to be accessed through technology. So we have to keep that in. It's going to be complex and multifaceted, so we need to be up to that challenge.
Thank you.
So moving on to number 4, examine hybrid or contracted service models for all school district instructional support services. Now this is This isn't referring to our instructional support teachers necessarily. This is referring to all of the support services that serve our district, and everything from custodial maintenance to technology to you name it, whatever those support services are. So looking at those hybrid models and see what's the most efficient way to offer that service without compromising the service you're getting. That's the trick. Can you do things for less dollars? You can, but sometimes it's not delivering on what you wanted to purchase in the end. So that's very important. The fifth one, examine lean processes, leveraging technology and business process management for all services and implement where possible. We've been doing quite a bit of that in the technology services area, and we're starting to have that sort of branch out. We cleaned up our own house first, and now we're starting to help other people or see, connect data sources, et cetera, and helping other people see how do they do things to stop doing manual processes to the extent possible. And we still have several of those that we can work through as an organization, to where we automate things to the extent we can, and the advantage of that is you get more efficient. At the same time, you're using less resources, and we have some opportunities there as well. And lastly, 6, analyze employee compensation plans to determine market competitiveness. If you'll remember, a few years back, Mike helped lead us through the idea of it's a different board policy now, but what used to be 223 1.R, the administrative salary ranges was based on market ranges instead of just a static number that was left there for years and years. It's now, okay, you really got to stick your head up, look around, and see what's going on in the market. Otherwise, you could be having competitive issues.
I think it's really important that we address this, because I think our employees look at two things. One, is my compensation package competitive with other people in the area and the state? And two, am I content in my job? Do I feel like I'm having job satisfaction? And I think if we can meet those two needs, we can attract, we can recruit, and we can retain quality staff. But if our compensation package isn't quite there, job satisfaction may help, but job satisfaction, there's a lot of challenges with that too. Mm-hmm. But we have to be competitive in the forefront. There's no doubt about it for those reasons.
So are you going to be looking at things other than compensation to attract, retain, and recruit?
Good question, Allison.
Okay.
I think we always have job satisfaction. We always have employee morale. Mm-hmm. We always have climate, culture, mm-hmm. all those types of relationships. All those types of pieces, I think, are constantly on our radar. Mm-hmm. And we're constantly, thinking about them and aware of them and trying to address them and keep those all in a positive vein all the times.
Much of what Kim has been handling in professional growth and training and training opportunities are part of that attraction. One of our strong successes in the district is our comprehensive, continuous, ongoing training programming for our staff that just isn't available necessarily in other districts.
Right, absolutely.
Actually, there is a 7th one. The 7th one was explore opportunities to increase student enrollment through local, regional, and international opportunities. We've made some significant inroads to our open enrollment loss out. I'm hopeful, and we continue to work really hard to continue that trend. But there's other options that we have as well, including potential international opportunities where we can get certified to allow other students to come in. Other districts have done that. We can certainly take a look at that. It isn't just all benefit and no resource. It's definitely something you'd have to put resources into, but there's also other side benefits other than just increasing your enrollment per se. So that's something that we would take a look at we would consider taking a look at as well. So those are the efficiency projects that we looked at, and there's 7 of them there, and those were things, some of them we heard from the community, some of them were things that we had come up with over the past 12 to 18 months. Some of them have been on the radar for a while. Those are the options we bring forward, but there were also some what we call permanent solutions, because in the end, the efficiencies, they do not bring a permanent solution. They may buy you a little more time in between operational referenda, but they won't eliminate the need for it unless the state begins to change how they clamp down on school funding and what they do with school funding. So these are some other solutions that we took a look at. Number one, collaborate with other similar school districts concerning advocacy for adequate long-term stable revenue from sources other than property taxes. One of the things we got when we presented numerous times in the community is some of our community members were very concerned. They said, do most people know this, and what are you doing to change this? And we said there's only so many things we can do as district administration and you as even school board members to really change this. That change has to come from the legislature, in Madison, and obviously the citizens have much more sway over that than we do. So this is about taking a look at long-term stable revenue sources and seeing if there's options that we can work with other districts and join our voice with theirs and see if there's a potential solution on the horizon. The second one is create a state of Wisconsin supported sustainable plan for funding to replace referenda resources. It's somewhat related to number one, but this one is specifically when you look at the quantity of operational referenda in this state, it has been growing by leaps and bounds. Now, thankfully, many of them, if not all of them, have been passing, which is great, but that's no way to run an organization. You can't, or a state. You can't continue to do that. That's not the most effective way of doing it. So that's just something that we looked at as part of a permanent plan.
It goes back to my frustration with the fact that one's child's education should not be determined by the zip code that they live in, and the state accountability for that whole issue of looking at reform of school finances in the state is desperately overdue. The State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Evers, has had on his agenda finance reform for nearly all the time he's been in office, and it continues to be ignored. But the reality is that is the responsibility and the accountability of the state, and it constitutionally is there, and to allow the state to drift apart and to frankly tear communities apart regularly on referendums to make up the difference when the accountability should really be in Madison is really the issue at hand. It is to me irreconcilable that we would continue to do that in so many different places, in so many different communities, and when we're faced and when we're deep in it, it's that old adage that when you're up to your waist in alligators, you forget that the objective was to drain the swamp. The issue is that we are far too often into the swamp with alligators dealing with this issue when it shouldn't be our responsibility. It should be the elected officials of the state of Wisconsin to deliver on that issue. And we have to continue to raise that issue that we didn't create it. And there is also a piece here that I think gradually, and there's more and more literature coming out. Just the past weekend, one of our state assemblymen had a column in the paper to remind individuals of the fact that the accountability rests with the state, and it should not be on what is the most discriminatory type of taxation, that being property taxes, as opposed to income and sales taxes being far more fair, because those who earn the money can pay the taxes, those who earn the money can pay the sales tax, as opposed to individuals with fixed income, which is deplorable that we have to ask our community for.
Well, and in addition to that, when you look at the resources and the energy that a community has to expend when they go to referendum, that's energy and resources that aren't being expended on the core mission and what we do really well every day. So there's certainly an appropriate place for referenda, and there was historically in this state. It was usually constructing new buildings like Oaklawn. That made all the sense in the world for communities to weigh in on that. But when it came to just keeping the lights on, not so much. So, number 3, identification, creation of, and implementation of an internal and external communication plan for the school district. We've talked about this one before. This is one that we heard from the community as well. A lot of people said, how can we not know some of this? We need more communication from you. We love it when it's referendum time and all this information comes out. That's terrific, but what happens once the referendum is over, and how do we continue to communicate?
And I was just going to share, we're looking at a communication strategy where we're first going to start out with surveying our staff and surveying families next fall. And then we're also going to have focus groups that are going on for 2 days where we'll have a sampling of administrators, sampling of teachers at the different varying levels, and other groups within our organization, community groups, and then of course different samplings of parents at each of the levels as well. And that's going to be our starting point to really take a look at what is it that we need to do. The other thing that I'm getting together right now is all the different vehicles that we currently use and how often we use them. I think we use some different vehicles for communication, but it's that whole factor of there's other districts who are communicating every week to the entire community, and we are, you know, doing it maybe twice a year. So there's definitely some areas that we know we can improve in, but that is where we're going to start is in the fall.
And in generic sense of Kim leading that initial coordination, and I know that Sue Schnorr is planning to deal with changing somewhat the format of the annual school budget to have that a maybe more user-friendly, understandable device, and there are pieces out there, or models out there to deal with that, because both the timeline and the product. You handle that, we handle that with you every year. We comply with all the laws to deliver on the budget, but it's only during referendum time when people ask, well, what's the budget? And we really do believe that we need to have a device that is more easily read as well as understood. But Wisconsin school finance, as is true in most states, is a very complicated, arcane process, and it is not easily translated into plain English. And that's something that we'll be working hard on, but it's essential, and it's also part of that communication, not only programs, but where does the revenue come from, or where do the dollars come from, and also how we deploy them and use them. And the other piece is, I just reminding, I was always taken back and shocked by the kind of, you know, we always have had good audit reports of our school finances, but to celebrate how we manage the people's money in the district, which we do a great job on, but we just take it for granted.
Yeah.
And I think what we need to do is celebrate the good job that business services does, and that frankly business services can do that because our principals and our administrators and our teachers are good with using the people's money on a daily basis. And that's a very important part of the process.
So lastly, implications and considerations. You know, this all looks great, but what are the implications and considerations of us actually tackling some of these pending your guidance and your approval for us to go down these roads? Well, the first thing is this may require potential adjustments to the strategic plan. You know, strategic plans aren't just about setting courses for us. It's really more about resource allocation. That's why people do strategic plans. It says, where are we going to put our energy and our time to deliver on the mission of the organization? So this will require some adjustments to the plan. I don't think there was anything up there that didn't fit in with the 5 community priorities. You know, there really wasn't. In fact, it also fit in with the currently approved goals in almost every instance. But it would require some changes to some of the action steps. Maybe when some things are done, maybe some things would have to go on hold for part of that, you know, because you'd elevate some other things in line ahead. So that's just something to be aware of. Allow the district to increase efficiency and reduce or delay additional operational revenue required. Basically with that one is, what was that one? Oh, that was an implication. It will allow us to increase our efficiency and reduce or delay. So basically the whole point of this one is pushing out the need for, hopefully forever, the need for another operational referendum. But if typically based upon state action you had to go to referendum in another 2 years, if we were able to capture some of these efficiencies and it pushed it out to 3, 4, whatever, that would be awesome. So that's another one of the implications of this and
Or forever if
considerations.
there was a miracle in Madison.
Correct, correct. Number 3, success is only partially within the district control. This requires action on the part of other organizations and governmental bodies. You know, we don't control all of that. In the permanent solutions, there's only so much we can do. We could be the rallying cry, yes, but in the end, we don't pass the laws, and that's a different governmental body that does that. And lastly, may require additional investment for long-term solutions. There are several up there that may require initial capital to operationalize some savings to come back, and that's just good planning. So those were the implications and considerations.
We will turn to questions,
Yeah,
but
with
the
that,
next
we would-
step along the way relating to this is our goal is to bring this back to you as formally for you to have a chance to ruminate for a couple of weeks on it, and then give us the charge order. And what we would then commit to in August is to return with the structure relating to it and some timelines for reporting back to you, because some of these may take a short period of time, and some of these may take 6 months to 9 months to a year to accomplish. But once we have your authority to invest the time into the process, we will then develop a structure for you to review and hear in August or at the latest in September.
Thank you.
So, if
Do
there
you
are
guys
any
have
questions?
Questions?
No questions, just a couple thoughts. I don't know how many of us read that last month's WASPy magazine, but they had a very compelling article about the shortages of teachers. And in that article are also some ideas about how to implement things to try to keep faculty in your district. So that was a good thing. I'm interested in the number 4, because I seriously do not believe that contracted services are always the best idea. So I'm interested to see what might come up from that. And then, of course, the communication with the community, I think, is vital.
Any other comments or questions?
The only other comment I would make is I had the pleasure of speaking at a future workforce summit about a week and a half ago, and there were some amazing speakers there. This is not just an Oshkosh issue. This is a Wisconsin issue. The speaker said that we need to attract 300,000 people to Wisconsin, and right now we have 15,000 in the pipeline. So just to give you an idea of the worker shortage that is coming, our state, the survival of our state, is based upon the fact of us attracting 18 to 35-year-olds, young families, to the state to live, because we need more workers. We're not alone in that, but our state, it's a glaring issue right now. It is the issue above all other issues. 95% of the population growth in this state is age 65 and older, to give you an idea of where this is going. So so this is an important thing. You know, this isn't just about the health and the vibrancy of Oshkosh, although that's super important and at the front of our mind. It's about the health and vibrancy of our state. And it's going to be harder for us if Wisconsin becomes a net importer of 18 to 35-year-olds, that's easier for us to get them to come and live in Oshkosh. So every piece of work we do will help Wisconsin stay competitive, and obviously we're all very interested in that. So.
Thank you.
That's an especially salient point, Dr. Gundlach. I think it is, I think to use the term crisis point is a fair summation.
Yes.
Right, that,
Absolutely.
And the clock's ticking.
Yeah.
Right, and I can't help but look at all those bullet points, and always the narrative hangs over, what if, when Walt Jankowski is here talking about continuous improvement organizations, that, you know, a lot of good organizations and firms doing good work, but really the Oshkosh Area School District is really the shining example, and I just think of that lens all the time, that if we were, it's so imperative that we are a leading edge organization, that just attractiveness is written all over us, right? Easy to say, but I actually think it's attainable. I think it has to be the focus of our work.
Right.
Thanks.
We have an amazing team ready to tackle these issues and to look at that. It's a focus and center of our attention on a daily basis, and but it is another one we're trying to that needs to be done, while at the same time, as you could see by Mike's staffing report, we need to be ready for the opening of school year in 9 weeks, and that's the next step of it. So, since today was the last day of school, it's really about 9 weeks, and we're.
I don't think you're supposed to say that today.
Well, I think it's boring. It's boring around here when we don't have children.
It's
I mean,
true.
that's.
Well, it's not boring in my house.
Yeah, I can bring some kids. I got some kids.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? All right, thank you,
very much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, requests for future agenda items. Okay, announcements?
Yeah. If our student reps would have been here, I'm sure they would have mentioned it, but I want to give a little shout out to the Oshkosh North High Spartans girls softball team who is at state. They're going to play Friday. And I think, if I heard it correctly, I was getting ready to leave here, I think they have a freshman pitcher that has gone hitless through the entire playoffs.
Yep.
Which is,
And she's
she
recruited.
already has a, she already made it, yeah.
She's recruited Northwestern
So-
University.
Both Spartans.
All right, awesome.
Yes, actually, I think tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
First round tomorrow. Right. So.
Any other announcements? Okay, we'll adjourn to executive session. Do I have to read A, B, C, and D?
ABC are the same.
Okay,
So you just
do A and D.
then
Okay. For the purposes of considering the disciplinary data of specific persons, 19.851F Wisconsin statutes, A, review expulsion recommendation from expulsion hearing officer for a high school student who engaged in conduct while at school or while under the supervision of a school authority that endangered the property, health, or safety of others at school and repeated refusal or neglect to obey school rules, 120.131CE Wisconsin statutes, and review expulsion recommendation from expulsion hearing officer for a high school student who engaged in conduct while at school or while under the supervision of a school authority that endangered the property, health, or safety of others at school, 120.131CE Wisconsin statutes.
So moved.
Second.
Call a roll, please.
Herzog?
Here, yes.
Herzog, aye. Lemberger?
Aye.
Lemberger, aye. Olmsted?
Aye.
Olmsted, aye. Carlin?
Aye.
Carlin, aye. Eliason?
Aye.
Eliason, aye. Evans?
Aye.
Evans, aye. Garner?
Aye.
Garner, aye. Motion carried.
Thank you. All right, we are adjourned.